The Body Snatchers is a 1954 novel by Jack Finney about people being replaced with alien doppelgangers. The book has been adapted 4 times to film, the most recent being a solidly meh attempt in 2007, starring the very pretty Nicole Kidman. If you count the number of movies that pay homage to or blatantly rips it off, that number gets much higher. Perhaps objectively the best was the 1978 adaptation directed by Philip Kaufman. You got a fantastic cast, amazing sound design, and a shocking climax. Notably, much more dystopian than the original novels was. Our heroes have to stay awake or risk being replaced by alien invaders while they slumber. They have to remain diligent as the number of snatchers slowly rises, reflected by the gradual shift in ambient sounds and lack of expressed emotions on strangers' faces. The invaders could be anyone, look like any other number. Even more alarming, the invaders are exact copies, with the same scars and memories, meaning they could be replaced without it being noticed. The fear of being replaced, of someone bearing such an uncanny likeness to ourselves that they are somehow able to take over our life, is explored in many horror films beyond invaders. Movies like The Thing, Cam, Us, and Stepford Wives, to name a few, explore this terror as well. There's an infamous episode of The Twilight Zone called Mirror Image, in which the main character becomes convinced a doppelganger is attempting to replace her. And she's right. The word doppelganger is German, translating into double goer or double walker. Doppelgangers were figures in old folklore, wraith apparitions that mirror our souls. The concept of this warped twin isn't unique to German folklore. The Egyptians had the Ka, a spirit that had all the same memories and feelings of the original person. Plus, similar concepts appear in Norse, Scottish, and Finnish mythology. It was said that to meet your doppelganger signaled your imminent death. Certainly for characters of the Body Snatcher 1978 film, that is true. After being duplicated, the originals are killed, all traces destroyed and disposed of. It's unsettling, isn't it? The thought that all that is you, every molecule of your body being crumpled into ash and thrown into a literal dumpster, you're scooped out and left a crusty, dried husk, an entire human existence turned into a pile of unrecognizable...
Mandy, what the flippin' feck are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, I got a little caught up. It's one of my favorite movies.
And where's the spoiler warning? I haven't seen Invadey Body Doodles before.
Oh, shit, right.
Okay, that's better. So it's an imposter syndrome video.
Yes.
And I'm here because I'm so authentic and effortless.
I want some of that leftist cook magic.
That's really cringe, Mandy.
Well, I'm cringe, Neil. What do you want from me?
But imposter syndrome is like the fear of not belonging. And you're opening with doppelgangers replacing people. So like, where are you going with this?
Wait for it. Where was I? Okay, blah, blah, blah. Oh, right. There's a second, less discussed reason that the Body Snatchers is so terrifying. At a certain point in every Snatch storyline, the protagonists are outnumbered. The balance tips so that there are more of those who have been replaced than those who haven't. Even we in the audience may not be certain who is friend or foe.
I get it.
This isn't just an exploration of the fear of being replaced. It's about the knowledge, the very certainty of not belonging. Because if eventually everyone has been replaced by the invaders, doesn't that just mean you are the imposter now?
Ah, that's interesting.
Right?
You're doing the old...
Yes,
Yep.
Correct.
That's also really cringe. Okay, so The idea is you want to make an imposter syndrome video while impersonating other YouTubers.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I need your help. I don't know which YouTubers to do. There's so many styles of editing, inflections, and voice, uses of memes to consider alone.
Okay, let's breathe.
Okay.
We can figure this out.
Thank you. I just want to find the right voices and styles to talk about this with. I'm so nervous about screwing this one up. I finally started turning on mid-roll ads at the end of last year, and I don't know. I just feel like if I'm going to start making my audience sit through ads, I got to make sure the videos are worth it, you know?
Well, I actually do think your intro, your prestige is pretty strong. That kind of little Mandy, Ellis, Lindsay, Hootsy, Mainly Do. It's a great start.
Okay, but should I continue that into the first part, or should I try someone else?
Might be good to move on to someone else, just to keep the momentum going, keep that retention.
So I have to explain what imposter syndrome is without defaulting to a dictionary, right? But it also needs to help pull the audience in and keep them engaged. Preferably something I can insert some jokes into, since things will likely get a bit disturbing later.
Okay. So you need informative but engaging and humorous.
Yeah. Some more Mandy! Hello and welcome. I'm Mandy Johnson. In some more news, a lot of people seem to have imposter syndrome these days. Why is that? And how? And who? And are you even good enough to have it? I kid. You're probably already aware of the term. Perhaps you went to brunch recently with some good friends, and one of your gal pals says that she's really worried she doesn't deserve the position she literally went to school for. Or perhaps yourself have often dealt with feelings that maybe everyone secretly hates you and wish you were gone. Or perhaps you spent more than 5 minutes on TikTok and have now diagnosed yourself with it thanks to some precocious tween. Today we're going to unpack why this is and why so many of us seem to have it, or think we have it anyway. There are certainly tons of totally legit business people out there offering us loads of opportunities to get rid of our imposter syndrome, whether through seminars or teaching us self-affirmations we can get out of the way in 5 minutes in front of our shared bathroom mirror before running off to the 8-hour shift at Starbucks, or a 5-hour shift at Uber, or maybe both. Hell, recently I found this video that offered to teach me how to turn my imposter syndrome into a superpower.
You can take all of the fear out of your imposter syndrome. You can start to view it as your superpower.
You know, I always hoped that maybe I'd find out I'd have a superpower like turning into animals, or maybe turning invisible, because Lord knows every person who can turn invisible is a cool, very chill person. But yeah, I guess being plagued with the fear that all of my successes are actually just a series of flukes, and, you know, one day I'll wake up and discover that I am indeed not worthy of any of the love and validation I've ever gotten. That could be a superpower. Somehow. The term imposter syndrome, despite its recent spike in popularity and discussion, is not a new concept. It can actually be linked to a 1978 study called The Imposter Phenomenon in High-Achieving Women: Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. Sexy. Psychologists Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes spent over 5 years talking to over 150 high-achieving women with PhDs who were highly regarded in their fields of study or professions, as well as students noted for academic excellence. All of these women struggled with a feeling of not really belonging, worried that their achievements were not actually as impressive as people told them were, or else concerned that they would one day be found out as being a fraud. This study had its limitations, by the way, many in fact, and we'll talk a bit about that later. But in the meantime, what is important to note right now is that this study and everything that came after it, the loose amalgamation of TED Talks, Medium article, and think pieces, were shaped directly by this study. It cannot be overstated how important this study was in shaping how we even think about imposter syndrome. For example, have you ever noticed that we speak about imposter syndrome as though it's something that specifically plagues women? Even the 1978 study, there includes a note that says specifically that men are not as likely to experience imposter syndrome. Gee, I wonder why that could be. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So instead, let me get behind myself, or rather, behind you. That's right, you at home right now, sitting in your little living room, opening up your little laptop, watching this video, utterly convinced that I couldn't be possibly in the room with you right now because invisibility as a superpower is definitely made up. Since the 1978 study, it has been confirmed that imposter syndrome can affect people of other genders and professions, as well as other cultures as well. While not diagnosable in the same way that you could diagnose, say, a mental illness or a sinus infection or the need to be invisible because you don't want to face the consequences of your actions, there are 6 characteristics that are common to those who experience imposter syndrome.
Hi, Miss Mandy.
Okay, Mandy, trust me, maybe no puppets.
Too much?
Well, at a certain point, the bit might wear a little thin, so you want to be careful how much you're plagiarizing. And you gotta give yourself enough room and space to try the other styles you want.
Fair. Besides, I don't think I can keep that voice up. I don't know how Cody does it. The rest of it was good though, right? Okay, great. I do want to go over the 6 characteristics, like really break them down in a way that is accessible, but also doesn't speak down. And I think I know who. Okay, folks, so let's get into talking about the specific characteristics of imposter syndrome. Clance, as in the same Clance from the 1978 study, notes that there are 6 characteristics common to those dealing with imposter syndrome. While not everyone will present each of these symptoms, she does suggest that at least 2 of them should be present in order to identify somebody dealing with imposter syndrome. The first of these 6 characteristics is the imposter cycle. This cycle includes several steps and is considered the most common of the characteristics. It starts when a task is assigned to the individual, whether by an outside force or something that the person has decided to do themselves, and then the person starts to feel anxiety. They react to this anxiety either by over-prepping, or else they will procrastinate first and then go into frenzy preparation mode at the very last minute. Following task completion, there is an initial sense of relief and accomplishment, but those good feelings do not persist. Although imposters may receive positive feedback about their successful accomplishment of the task, imposters deny their success is related to their own ability. They reject positive messages about their personal contribution because those messages are incongruent with their perception of their mechanics of success. If imposters have over-prepared, they believe their success is due to hard work. Those who initially procrastinate likely attribute their success to luck. Imposters also hold fixed beliefs that accomplishment through hard work does not reflect true or real ability. And when the next task comes around, the cycle begins again. Oh my god, my cat is meowing outside the door. I am Zoe B! I did it! The number of successes don't actually weaken one's imposter syndrome. In fact, in a weird kind of twist, it actually kind of strengthens it. The so-called imposter believing that they're just becoming more adept at hiding their ineptitude. The other 5 characteristics of Clance's definition of imposter syndrome are the need to be special or the best, superhuman aspects, basically I need to be perfect to a level that is unreasonable, fear of failure, denial of competence and discounting praise, fear and guilt about success. This isn't the universal standard, though. Some sources talk about the sort of societal expectation to put on a facade, keeping a layer of protection between who you are in private and the rest of the world. A 1991 study suggested using the term perceived fraudulence instead, to make it more clear that this isn't the same as, say, a personality or mental disorder. A concern I think that is pretty well earned considering the way we're still talking about it to this day. A big question that always comes up when we're talking about imposter syndrome is, why do people feel this way? Where does this come from? There are a few theories. Family dynamics are often discussed as a potential source of imposter syndrome, but conclusions vary depending on where you look. In a 1985 study, for example, many of the high-achieving women came from backgrounds in which the success was in part determined by the ease in which it was done. The assumption being that if one is more naturally intelligent, they wouldn't even need to study. Or else they were compared to more like perceived to be highly intelligent siblings, even if the siblings in questions didn't actually show any signs of being more intelligent. But a 1995 study counters this finding, observing that not every child from a family that has strong achievement values becomes an imposter in their own perspective. King and Cooley suggested that the way in which families deliver messages about their achievement values may play an important role in contributing to the development of imposter fears, and that individual differences between the children, such as personality, may also be important. Basically, low emotional support from parental figures can definitely be a factor, but that's just one of many to consider. But Mandy, you might be saying at home, What about social media? Yes, social media's influence on us is definitely a sort of concern. Social media influencers' lives can look so glamorous and perfect and can make us feel like our own lives are truly lacking for not living up to this heavily filtered reality. Even those who aren't influencers have a tendency to only show off the good parts of their lives, making it seem like they never struggle at all. But again, keep in mind that we've been studying this since the 70s, so while social media is certainly a more recent contributor, it can't be solely blamed. What is clear is that those who deal with imposter syndromes have to also deal with the negative effects from it. Most notably, much higher increases in dealing with depression and anxiety. They also tend to experience emotional exhaustion, burnout, shame for perceived failures, feelings of inadequacy, and a higher dissatisfaction with life. And now, I'd like to read you a poem. So many people, all of them super hot. I want to have...
Jesus Christ, Mandy.
What?
You can make horny poems if you want, just don't drag Zoe B into it. Because what you're doing is cool. I think it's interesting how even like in this little intro to imposter syndrome, you can see some of the threads you're setting up, and I want to see how you address them all later.
No, it's, just the way you do it. I'm not any more skilled at it than anyone else.
Mandy, is that a bit of your own imposter syndrome I'm seeing?
Maybe. Okay, yeah, you're right. Part of why I want to make this video is because of my own imposter syndrome and wanting to better understand it. But it's definitely bigger than just me.
Right, you're not alone. It's pervasive. Think about the number of people affected. Viola Davis, David Tennant, Bowie, Maya Angelou, Peter Sellers.
Oh, you don't have to mention Peter to me. That was the first episode of Respect the Dead I hosted. Available now on all your favorite places to listen to podcasts.
Also, there's that famous story from Neil Gaiman. You know that one, right?
Yes, but I like hearing you tell it.
Oh, I'll do it properly so.
Okay, so the story goes, Neil Gaiman, author of American Gods, Sandman, etc., goes to this party, and he feels super out of place. Everyone here is a scientist, an artist, someone important, and he's worried he'll eventually be found out as not belonging there. So Neil starts talking to this older gentleman. They have a great conversation about a couple of things, but at one point this guy says, I just look at all these people and I think, what the heck am I doing here? They've made amazing things. I just went where I was sent. The man Neil was speaking to was Neil Armstrong.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil, Gaiman that is, went on to say, if Neil Armstrong could feel like an imposter, maybe everyone did. Maybe there weren't any grown-ups, only people who had worked hard and also got lucky and were slightly out of their depth. All of us doing the best we could, which is all we could really hope for.
See, this is the thing that really interests me about imposter syndrome, right? We treat it almost like a diagnosis. We pathologize it, but it's too universal to be that. Not everyone experiences it, but enough do that you can't really treat it the same way you might a mental illness. And yet that's exactly how we treat it.
Right. Okay. So what's the next part of the essay?
I want to get more specific, talk about the ways imposter syndrome is playing out and why for specific groups of people, as well as point out the issues with the original study.
I think I have a suggestion.
In the article, Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome, authors Ruchika Tulshian and Jodi Ann Barre criticize the way that many of the think pieces and TED Talks discuss imposter syndrome. Namely, the conversation around imposter syndrome always makes the assumption that these feelings are not rational, coming from illogical individual issues rather than the direct and logical outcome of living within a patriarchal capitalistic culture built with implicitly racist structures. Both authors are women of color, and the majority of spaces are not made with women of color in mind. They are subtly and not so subtly reminded of the many ways they, quote, do not belong. And other marginalized people experience this as well. Plenty of jobs are not accessible for disabled individuals. Quote, professional dress codes often still fall within certain cis-normative ideals that exemplify stereotypical ideals of binary genders. I recently watched the documentary White Hot: The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie & Fitch. Their hiring practices encourage recruiters to only hire conventionally attractive people, those who fit the lifestyle of the brand. It was made clear that people of color were not to be included. They were specifically, purposefully left out. The few non-white employees who were hired felt like outsiders, and that was entirely by design. not because they just weren't confident enough or were doing anything wrong. The focus on curing people of their imposter syndrome is always inevitably flawed and incomplete. People, particularly women, are given advice on how to combat their own imposter syndrome, but without addressing the larger structures contributing to it. That's a bit like saying the way to deal with getting stabbed is just to practice not getting stabbed, rather than maybe making it more difficult to get knives? As someone who has worked in a variety of work environments, but most notably spent 9 years working in an office, I can tell you firsthand how true this all is. Despite 9 years of working there, I often struggled to still feel like I belonged. This was, among other things, in part because of being openly queer in a work environment that, while accepting of queer people's experiences and existence, made it clear that expressing support explicitly was not as acceptable. And also the kind of queerness that was accepted still needed to fit within certain other norms, like being married and raising kids. I can't imagine what would have happened if I had decided to bring a pride flag into work. The environment there was also overwhelmingly white, with many of the positions of higher management filled by older white men. This didn't affect my own sense of not belonging. I'm obviously white, but I bring that up because I can imagine that potentially being really alienating for the few coworkers who were people of color. I can count on one hand the number of full-time employees who worked at headquarters who were people of color, neither of whom, by the way, were in management-type positions. And I assure you, it's not because they weren't working hard enough. Towards the end of my time at that work environment, I did notice an increase in hiring temps who were people of color, and that was an encouraging change. But temps don't get the same protections as full-time employees, nor the same benefits. I also admit I wonder if this was some kind of lazy attempt at diversity or trying to demonstrate that without truly committing to it, but I can't say that for certain, and I want to be very careful here not to accidentally imply that only people of color were hired as temps or accidentally minimize those positions or the work they were called to do. As for myself, I am somebody who deals with mental illness, am visibly fat, and am polyamorous. 3 things in particular that are not normalized in office environments, and certainly weren't where I was. When I would have a really bad mental health day to the point of needing to call out of work, I always said things like, I have a headache, or I feel under the weather, because I was worried that being honest would be stigmatized, or that it would further prove that I didn't belong in that environment. Which, considering I no longer work there, I guess that's probably kind of true. I can tell you there were at least a couple of times in which I and other fat or plus-size women were specifically targeted for, quote, not dressing professionally, but when pushed to provide more examples about what was so unprofessional about our clothing, got extremely vague answers. Like, literally, when a dress of mine in particular was deemed not appropriate for work, and I asked why, I was told by my manager, I can't tell you that. Super helpful feedback. Thanks, Bob. Tilshian and Beret say,
when employees from marginalized backgrounds try to hold themselves to a standard that no one like them has met, and that they're often expected not to be able to meet, the pressure to excel can become too much to bear. The once engaged Latina woman suddenly becomes quiet in meetings. The Indian woman who is a sure shot for promotion gets vague feedback about lacking leadership presence. The trans woman who always spoke up doesn't anymore because her manager makes gender-insensitive remarks. The black woman whose questions once helped create better products for the organization doesn't feel safe contributing feedback after being told she's not a team player. For women of color, universal feelings of doubt become magnified by chronic battles with systemic bias and racism. In truth, we don't belong because we were never supposed to belong. Our presence in most of these spaces is a result of decades of grassroots activism and begrudgingly developed legislation. Academic institutions and corporations are still mired in the cultural inertia of the good old boys clubs and white supremacy. Biased practices across institutions routinely stymie the ability of individuals from underrepresented groups to truly thrive. The answer to overcoming imposter syndrome is not to fix individuals, but to create an environment that fosters a variety of leadership styles, and in which diverse racial, ethnic, and gender identities are seen as just as professional as the current model.
Mandy, is that true? Your boss told you were dressed inappropriately but couldn't tell you why?
More like wouldn't, but yeah. The really messed up thing is that the other two women who were spoken to were dressed more conservatively than I was, dressing virtually the same as the rest of the office. The only reason I can think of that was a problem was literally just that they were also visibly fat, plus size people. After the meetings, the other two wore layers and I started to cover up my boobs because that was the only thing I can think of.
Yikes.
Yikes on bikes.
This project's going to be really interesting. I really like the number of styles you're doing. Are you going to do CJ the X?
Oh God, no. I know exactly what would happen if I tried. Oh God. I'm 35. I know my physical limitations.
Fair.
That's admittedly what makes this video so challenging. I wish I had the ability to represent more creators, but I have limitations on my time and I can only make the script so long. Plus some of them I would never be able to mimic properly. Neoliberalism. Capitalism. Capital. Hegemony. Neoliberalism. Already said that one. Reproductive value. Necromancy. Necropolitics. Necro. Hi, Mandy. Hi, Sarah. You look so pretty today.
No, you.
No, you.
All right, that's enough of that, you two. You're going to get stuck in an infinite loop.
Neil, I actually need to talk to Mandy for a minute, please.
Oh, excuse me, so?
Yep.
Sarah's entered the video, everyone. This is not a drill.
I just wanted to see how the video is coming along. Also, have you turned on mid-roll ads?
Yeah, I did. Finally.
Can I ask the obvious question?
Why did it take so long to do so? A weird combination of pride, guilt, some of that ever-relevant imposter syndrome. I don't know, maybe also a fear that I was essentially selling out to a degree.
But you have to pay rent, and getting paid for your work isn't selling out.
I know that logically, but heart-wise, I think I still internalize a lot of feelings around worth and productivity. I do put a lot of work into my videos, but am I really doing enough work to be worthy of a paycheck for something that basically started as a hobby during the pandemic?
Oh, I just had an idea for something you should talk about in the video.
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay, so during the early days of the pandemic, do you remember there were all of these tweets from people saying that this was the time to use your downtime productively?
Just a reminder that when Shakespeare was quarantined because of the plague, he wrote King Lear.
If you didn't come out of this quarantine with either 1, a new skill, 2, starting what you've been putting off like a new business, or 3, more knowledge, you didn't ever lack the time, you lacked the discipline.
I do.
Right. Okay, so during the pandemic, there came this pressure from hustle, grind set grifters and your aunts alike that this time needed to be spent wisely, whatever that means. Be it baking bread, starting an Etsy shop, or writing the novel that would change the course of human history, which is already a tall order under normal circumstances, but during a massive global medical emergency? This was of course pushed in part because the image of the pandemic keeping people home largely focused on middle to upper class office workers, middle management types, etc. A sizable workforce, yes, but definitely not everyone. Janitors, doctors, pharmacists, trash takers, mechanics, waitstaff, store clerks, a lot of them still had to go to their jobs, depending on what country you were in. Even for the workforce able to do their jobs from home, there was still massive pressure to ensure efficiency. For example, the managers at the Wall Street Journal instructed remote workers to answer work chat messages within a few minutes and to leave cameras on during video conference meetings. When a study came out during the pandemic that said 80% of remote workers felt more productive wearing business formal wear, some businesses were pretty quick to send that to all of their employees. The same survey, though, said that 65% wanted a more casual dress code than the one they currently had, and only 30% agreed that any dress code at all was necessary for business. Oh, and let's also acknowledge that saying that you feel more productive isn't really proof of anything, but that's getting off track. I'm sorry, where was I again?
Non-remote workers?
Right, got it. So think about it. You're a waiter. The restaurant you work for no longer allows people to come in and sit down, takeout only. So you're not getting as many tips. Your landlord still expects you to make rent, so perhaps you get a second or even a third job, and now you're working 70 hours per week. On top of this, you have a grandparent in a nursing home and you are constantly stressed about how they're doing, but you're not allowed to see them. The number of deaths attributed to COVID keep rising. You can't see your partner because they're also immunocompromised and you represent a huge risk to them with the multiple jobs and potential infection factors. You have children who have to do remote learning, and figuring out childcare is a nightmare. You are stressed and exhausted. And you're also grieving. Missing your friends, missing the little routines your life had, missing not having to stand 6 feet away from everyone at the grocery store, but somewhere in there, you're supposed to sit down and write a novel, a YouTube script, the next Western masterpiece. The pressure to work, to be as productive as possible, to fight the feeling of being an imposter, isn't limited to just during the pandemic, of course. It happens to be an especially revealing time, though. In Nick Martin's article, Against Productivity in the Pandemic, they say, this isn't a normal time. From the spread of the virus itself
to the pathetic response from Congress, to the quarantine and long-term economic peril staring down millions of people. Not much of what preceded it was really normal either. But it's fair to say that when the world is slowly descending into the unknown, any semblance of familiar routine can be a welcome reprieve. Staying in phone contact with loved ones and friends, finding time to go for a socially distant run. But more work, maybe the single most constant feature of American adulthood, is not the answer. Neither is more needless productivity.
This is not a time to optimize or stoically pretend that nothing has changed. Anyway.
You beautiful fucking genius. I couldn't have said it better myself. And in fact, I'm not going to, because I'm going to make you do it.
Well, don't just use that. There's still a lot about the history of productivity as a moral imperative that I don't touch on.
Oh, that's fine. I got a great source to cover that bit. And I know exactly how I'm going to introduce it too. Hello and welcome to the Earlobe Realm. Here in the Earlobe Realm, we help small leftist creators whose voices have not been rewarded by the algorithm and amplify their sound, echoing their messages to all of our subjects, tilting their hearing holes to our unholy cries. You cannot outrun the sound waves of mighty Lady Auditory. You cannot hide. All shall take her in despair. Today, in the Earlobe Realm, we invite you to direct your listening holes to this small indie creator, someone you probably have never heard of before. This YouTube channel, which I believe is called Thinking Goo, made this video, Work Doesn't Work. The video is both a scathing rebuttal to the capitalistic ethos of work being what gives one value, and the history of how we got to this point, as well as a personal account of Mildred's experiences and relationship with labor. The video is also in the style of that one character from Watchmen. You know, the big blue guy with the big blue dick. It's like him, but it's not like him. It's a whole thing. It's kind of like Mildred's jumping through her life at various points and sharing her experiences, as well as occasionally jumping into the future. Anyway, I'll just play the clip.
In 1935, Bertrand Russell wrote the essay In Praise of Idleness, which argued that the moralization of hard work is a sort of slave morality, one used by a privileged few to condition the many into endless service. Those whose work was demanded were made to work long hours, and the rest were left to starve as unemployed. Why? Because work is a duty, and a man should not receive wages in proportion to what he has produced, but in proportion to his virtue as exemplified by his industry. This is the morality of the slave state, applied in circumstances totally unlike those in which it arose. No wonder the result has been disastrous. Russell points out that during the First World War, the majority of the productive population were set to work making munitions or supplies or dying in holes. Despite this, the well-being of the average civilian was normal, if not better than normal. People still ate the same amount of food, people still had clothes to wear, so we know that we could organize the production of the things we need more efficiently. We know we don't need to spend as much time working as we do now. We've seen that happen. We knew it 100 years ago. We just don't do it. Instead, we cling to this notion that people must work hard under penalty of poverty and starvation. It's considered demoralizing or spiritually corrosive to have too much free time. We would prefer to force people, ourselves included, to do pointless busy work than just allow them to be idle. Russell's point here, beyond that workers are being exploited, which is, bad enough, is that the conditions that exploitation was created to address no longer even exist. Because we live in a world where modern technology could be leveraged to produce as much as we need with less human effort than we waste now. But instead of doing that, the exploiters have insisted on maintaining an arbitrarily inflated workload. Actually, devoting yourself to your work, if you think about it, is kind of like devoting yourself to God, because God wants you to do stuff that helps people, and the work you do is useful, and that means it helps people, so God must fucking love that shit. The owning class got really into this idea. And if you're not spending your time doing the thing God likes, then you're just going to spend your time sinning. If you've ever heard the expression idle hands are the devil's plaything, that means you'll jerk off if you're not working. And old-timey people hated jerking off, so that was scary to them. Thus, morally upstanding people who never jerked off are hard workers. They are rewarded by God for their virtue with wealth and success, and by the transitive property, we can assume that anyone who is wealthy and successful is therefore a hard worker. And also, anyone who is not wealthy or successful is lazy. Lazy people are driven to sin and ruin, becoming drunks, layabouts, and worst of all, sexually normal. Furthermore, that means that if an individual or group is poor, or immoral in your view, it is morally incumbent on you to put them to work. See, you're helping them, because hard work will transform their moral character and allow them to become fully functional members of society on your terms. And the fact that you just so happen to profit enormously from their labor is just a lucky coincidence. You're helping them get into heaven, so they should be thanking you.
All right, you've done your brilliant little cameo for the video. Now, go on, scram. Go on.
Bye, Mandy.
Get.
Bye, Sarah!
So what now?
I think it would be good for us to explore in more detail how non-marginalized people continue to treat marginalized people as inherent intruders, and how that could really fuel imposter syndrome.
Okay, yeah. We barely scratched the surface before now, so here's my pitch.
Imposter syndrome affects many different individuals at various identities and intersections. One of the ones that I can speak on a bit, being bi, is that of queer people's experiences. I'm sure this will be no surprise to my audience, which I know includes quite a few queer and or trans folk, but for those of you who are new here, people in the LGBT+ community can have concerns around being imposter because they have to hide details of their lives out of a very real need and concern for their safety. As Joanne Lockwood pointed out, the fear of being found out can quickly become all-consuming, and feeling the need to hide yourself by having a secret identity heightens imposter syndrome. Equally, sharing your sexual orientation or gender identity with work colleagues is often a daunting task. When people come out, they may still be living two lives to cover up their sexuality in certain situations and fear stepping into another lane. It is easy to get caught up in shame and humiliation. I can also say for myself and many bisexual people, though not all, we're not a monolith, there can be this sense of not belonging because we date people who fall into more socially accepted categories, who look like that anyway. Like for myself, being a bisexual woman, if I date anybody who is a man, or at least appears to be a man, that can put my bisexuality into question. Like for myself, if I date a man or someone who looks like a man, that can supposedly undermine the legitimacy of my being bi. And considering how many times I've fantasized about Charlize Theron, I adamantly disagree. I think there's definitely a conversation around straight passing privilege and what that means and what that can even look like. But I'll admit that, it really sucks as a bisexual woman to be told that if I am dating a straight man or someone who appears to be a straight man, then I shouldn't be attending pride events or even calling myself queer. According to one poll I found, 30% of LGBT+ employees feel frequently like an imposter in their workplace, and 64% of trans individuals reported feeling it frequently. There's plenty more that we could dive into right now about the experiences of marginalized people and what they have to deal with. Earlier last year, I read the book White Rage by Carol Anderson. It talks about how whenever Black people have gained civil liberties, going all the way back to the abolishment of legal chattel slavery, there has been a strong resistance from white people, a reactionary outcry that often results in violence. When enslaved Black people finally gained freedom, there were many states in the South that moved to create loopholes, accommodating legislation basically that made it so that freed Black people were still tied to slavers. For example, by incarcerating freed people for petty coerced and often false crimes and then making it illegal for them to be unemployed. Therefore, it was very difficult for them to have the freedom to choose jobs, certainly better paying jobs. In many ways, they were still being treated as slaves. Not only is the book important so that we can acknowledge the way that systemic racism has been very difficult to legislative existence, because it's been part of the system the whole damn time, but it also shows a pretty clear examples of how Black people, one group of marginalized people among many, mind you, have actually, there have been efforts to try and include them. They still very much get the message that they're not being accepted. If you're being told that the color of your skin or the food that you grew up loving to eat, or the traditions that are part of your family, or the way that you love makes it so you don't belong, you're probably gonna feel like you don't belong. How else are you supposed to feel? I still see examples of how marginalized people are excluded all the time in my own state. In 2019, the Skowhegan School Board voted to change their mascot after being petitioned several times by the Penobscot Nation and allies in the city. The mascot was indeed racist. It was literally the Indians. It was out of date, and the change was honestly inevitable. Honestly, it should have been changed sooner. As you can imagine, the response from those who felt like the mascot should be allowed to stay was extremely hostile. Some Penobscot were verbally attacked, even told that they should mind their own business, as if this didn't affect them. The treatment of Indigenous people in this country is horrific on many levels, but there is a special level of up to have the audacity to tell someone whose stolen land you are living on that they don't have the right to be upset at the caricature of their people that you're using to, cheer on a lacrosse team? The history of injustices suffered by Indigenous people is a long one, and certainly Skowhegan's history includes some pretty troubling stories. In 1724, soldiers launched a surprise attack on an Abenaki village in Nordridge Walk, which is just a few miles outside of where Skowhegan is today. Adults, the elderly, and even children were targeted indiscriminately, even as they fled to their canoes to escape. The village was also then burned down to the ground, forcing survivors to find a new home. Estimates of casualties range between 80 and over 150. Now, luckily, Maine has actually passed a law that has made it illegal to use Indigenous people as mascots, one of the few states to do so. But the fact that this blew up and caused such a ruckus in the way it did, I think is pretty telling of how far we still have to go. This constant narrative that marginalized people get, being told all the ways that they don't belong, as well as being fed ways that they are meant to assimilate into the dominant culture, is something that can truly mess with their sense of self and identity, a voice that can get into their heads. Philosopher W.E.B. Du Bois coined the term double consciousness to describe the inner dialogues that Black people have to contend with, an effect of living in a, dominantly, very blatantly white supremacist society, as well as those inner dialogues that they have to contend with to self-monitor themselves as a means of survival.
It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro. Two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder.
The concept of the dual self experienced by Black people was further expanded on and commented upon by Frantz Fanon in his 1952 book, Black Skin, White Masks.
The Black man possesses two dimensions, one with his fellow Blacks, the other with the whites. A Black man behaves differently with a white man than he does with another Black man. There is no doubt whatsoever that this vociferousness is a direct consequence of the colonial undertaking. Whether he likes it or not, the Black man has to wear the livery the white man has fabricated for him.
In light of this, it might not be surprising to hear that sometimes when Black and people of color hear about white people experiencing imposter syndrome, they find themselves feeling a bit frustrated, maybe even insulted. In the article, The Dubious Rise of Imposter Syndrome, a Filipino-American author was quoted as saying,
"Whenever I'd hear white friends talk about imposter syndrome, I'd wonder, how can you think you're an imposter when every mold was made for you? When you see mirror reflections of yourself everywhere, and versions of what your success might look like.
Multiracial individuals can sometimes deal with pretty intense imposter syndrome due to them feeling like because they aren't a single race, that they don't really belong to any one community. Making this harder is the fact that multiracial individuals don't get a lot of representation in the media. And sometimes, even when they are portrayed by white actors who don't come from that same background. For example, when Emma Stone played a character who is Hawaiian and Asian, a move that was criticized by many. Jennifer Chang, author of the article Why Imposter Syndrome Goes So Deep for Multiracial People, says,
being Puerto Rican and Chinese made me feel like I needed to be more of those identities in order to be accepted by people who identified as being Chinese or Puerto Rican, including my own family, because I don't look like them or I didn't have the same experiences as monoracial people. I've always been considered half or watered down versions of my Chinese and Puerto Rican identities. Multiracial individuals can often feel excluded from their communities. You're too much of something or not enough. My own extended family was very loving and accepting of my little mixed family, but there was always an internal sense of being different. I didn't look like them. I couldn't speak like them. I didn't have the same experiences as them.
Oh, it's going to take a while to film this one, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm estimating. Hey, editing Mandy, can you do me a favor? And at this point in the video, just like put on some text here how long this video ends up being. Oh, and make sure you use like a good professional font, like Papyrus or something, okay? We want people to take us seriously.
I wonder if other polyamorous creators deal with sassy fonts.
Other polyamorous content creators make TikToks.
But not our Mandy. Haven't ventured into short form content, have you?
No.
17,000 views.
It's no metaverse.
Oh, Mandy.
I'm sorry. I've been getting a little frustrated lately. You know, I've been kind of plateauing now for a while, and I know that happens to the best of us, but like, I could just really use some more money, and I'd really like to see this channel grow.
You know, Sarah's really smart about algorithm stuff.
Yeah, I guess I'm just feeling a little bit frustrated with the cycle and the circular logic of it all, you know? Like, apparently videos that immediately start with talking tend to have higher retention rates, right? So that means the algorithm favors them. But doesn't that also mean the algorithm makes it more likely that you will watch videos with immediate talking, regardless of if they're actually good or not?
It's like the snake eating itself. You know, ooh, bros.
Picking perfect thumbnails, having just the right level on our music, chasing trends. I don't know how anyone navigates it all without making it a full-time gig, and sadly, I just can't do that yet.
Plus, we're in the leftist video essay space.
So many caveats.
Caveat.
So many caveats.
Caveats.
So many caveats.
Caveat.
So many caveats.
Caveats. So many caveats. Caveats. So many caveats. Caveats. So many caveats.
Please don't cancel me.
Hey, no! You promised no musical numbers.
Sorry, I tried to sneak one in.
But yeah, I get it. We'd probably do better if we just made listicles about the top 10 places to take American friends in Ireland or something.
Yeah, sometimes I think I should just completely sell out and pivot my channel. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to teach you 5 surefire ways to get your partner to be polyamorous. Number 1, start an affair and then suggest polyamory as a solution when she finds out. If she starts to refuse or recommend couples therapy, remind her that you're being very brave and honest about who you are and that you need her support during this difficult time.
That was unnerving.
Yeah, I kind of just spooked myself just now.
You know, it doesn't seem fair you get to have all the fun doing all these YouTuber impressions. Do you mind if I do one?
You got someone in mind?
As a matter of fact. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. It's a place where my words become your neural pathways. So today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Where does it come from? What is it going to be? Everybody's got a different kind of way of looking at it. Sometimes you feel like maybe you're not the main guy, and that's okay, but sometimes maybe you should be the main guy. Here in this channel, we like to look at some goofy guys. We like to point at the goofy guys and we say, hey, friend, you're real bad and don't be a chauvinist because respect, boundaries, we all learn is the name of the game. That's the game. We're all playing the game. So don't hate the player, hate the chauvinist. So look at this guy.
Sexism against men is very common.
Don't say that. That's real bad. If this guy doesn't think he's an imposter, then maybe he should, and maybe you shouldn't. So that's it. Without further ado, hand you over to regular scheduled programming is over in the channel. Mandy is the main person here. So goodbye. Huh? Yeah?
Yeah, that was interesting.
I think we're getting distracted. What else have you got?
Okay, so this one's a little more out there. But what about... Hey, Miff Multitude, here's what's miffing me off today. We're gonna jump into this really quick because I am really revved up and need to talk about this. Okay, so everyone's talking about imposter syndrome right now, right? It's all, oh, I can't understand why so many people feel like they don't belong and everyone's judging them. Gee, I wonder why. For starters, let's look at the pandemic. The one that still isn't over despite what some people are saying. I was recently looking through Twitter, looking for the next topic for my next video, and I came across this article that was explaining how COVID-19 has caused a bit of a C-session. You heard me right, COVID didn't just cause a bunch of people to die unnecessarily, which would have been plenty terrible on its own. According to this article from 2021, it caused a huge number of women to leave the workforce. According to the article, more than 5 million American women have lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic, and women's participation in the U.S. labor force this past March was at its lowest since 1988. Globally, women have lost a staggering $800 billion in income due to COVID-19, according to a recent Oxfam International report. Oh, and yet we're short-staffed everywhere, right? Or maybe, I don't know, people can't afford to work. Maybe that's it. This is a huge problem. One of the reasons why more women as opposed to men are leaving the workforce is that more women typically tend to feel less deserving of their jobs, right? If you and your husband are struggling to pay for daycare, or maybe you don't really want to pay for daycare because who knows what those other kids' parents are even doing and if they're being safe, and Lord knows those places can just be full of diseases, right? But somebody has to stay home with the kids. The couple or one of the partners may decide it makes the most sense for the mom to stay at home, because stay-at-home moms are generally more accepted than stay-at-home dads, and also are more likely to see, more opportunities and growth and career, bumps in income if it's a man than if it's a woman. During this pandemic, we have seen time and time again leadership not doing nearly enough to address the inequality that has been exacerbated during this pandemic. We're told to just work hard and pull up our bootstraps, and eventually we might earn a living wage. Meanwhile, literal billionaires are making record profits while we starve. We were so focused on individual efforts to address this pandemic while implementing piss-poor structural ones, at least in my country anyway, that eventually, of course, it all came breaking down, leaving millions dead or suffering. We're expected to make sacrifice after sacrifice, and they just keep getting away with it. Criticizing Musk just shows how jealous of him you must be. Yeah, no shit, I am a bit jealous that Musk can afford to do things like take a couple of days rest without it launching him into a panic spiral about how he's gonna pay rent. Many of us feel like we don't belong because so many of us don't. And we internalize it, we individualize it, and pathologize it thanks to the mechanisms of capitalism. So many of us are complicit too. We should be out there in the streets burning these institutions down. Literally. And yet we all just go, ah, shucks, I gotta work harder, and then maybe I'll finally earn the right to have a living wage. I'm in that we. I'm no different. I am no more enlightened or better than anyone else. If anything, I'm worse because I should know better. But I can't seem to shake it. Logically, I know I'm deserving of space, of community, of love. And yet, I hate every time I need to ask for help paying for groceries or getting my cat's prescription food. I preach radical kindness and recognizing that the norms we grew up with are often very arbitrary and nonsense. And yet I feel like an imposter every fucking day of my life. I'm not queer enough. I'm not polyamorous enough. I'm not leftist enough. I'm not enough. This whole video is a farce, a fraud, an imposter. I'm just copying other people I admire, sure, but is this a form of flattery? Am I saying anything worthwhile here, or am I just the equivalent of a parrot regurgitating the right words in the right order? This whole video, in part, is inspired by collabs I've seen between Neil and Little Hoots. Like, I'm not even unique or interesting in my existential flailing. I'm tired.
Mandy? Mandy. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I think I'm just tired. Do you mind if we pick this up later?
Are you sure you're okay?
That's the thing about me, Neil. I'm never sure.
So, what are the vibes? How are we feeling about the video?
We are feeling. That's what we're doing.
Need more YouTubers to borrow from? Because, I mean, there's a pretty obvious one you're missing.
Oh. I want fries.
No, okay? I'm no longer an abolitionist. Literally go to jail. # lock her up.
Yeah. I don't think I could pull that one off.
Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't referring to myself. Imitating me will always come off as a hate crime.
I know. I'm trying to make this video about imposter syndrome and how it's not always our fault. So many of us feel like we don't belong. But the fact is, I don't feel like One time, I told my therapist that I feel imposter syndrome almost 24/7.
Jesus, is that true? Legit 24/7?
Yeah. And it just feels like if I'm going to make this video, I should be someone who has overcome that and is now more self-assured and confident and more radical. But no, I still question everything. Every friendship, every success. I'm secretly terrified that all of my friends or associates on YouTube don't actually like me or even respect me.
Oh my god, we get it! You're polyamorous. Big deal. No one cares. That's why your channel hasn't even reached 5,000 subscribers yet. Besides, I'm already here. Another leftist Amanda, already making much better videos with more impact, class, and much better hair than you will ever have.
Hi everyone. So I know this is a bit different, but I am basically making this video to make an apology to you. I want to apologize for boosting Mainly Mandy in a previous video that I did. I can't believe I gave someone like that the time of day, and genuinely, I'm embarrassed that I would do something like that.
Wait, no legal Mandy or Mandy Kimchi section? Wow. Screw you, Mandy.
Mandy's videos are so unimportant. You could delete the whole channel and no one would even notice. I make important videos. Videos that change people's lives. What's she bringing to the table?
See this? This is a proper accent. Not like that gibberish coming out of your mouth. Sounds like you're gargling lobsters while deep-throating blueberries.
Mainly Mandy, more like man, what a pain, Mandy. More like Mandy, Mandy not good, Mandy. More like Mandy, Mandy, more like I don't like Mandy. More like Mandy is not a good person. Mandy was found with Mandy was found with 8 bodies in her LA beach house home.
You know, what's done is done, and I can only apologize for it. So genuinely, I am sorry for that.
Do you even know what neoliberalism is? I mean, do you understand anything I say? Jesus, man, I know you're American, but come on, we gotta do better.
I'm sorry, who is Mainly Mandy? Mainly Mandy. Yeah, doesn't even sound fun to say.
I asked the cow who writes all my scripts her opinion of Mainly Mandy, and she said that Mainly Mandy's videos are amateurish, poorly edited, and make the world an actively worse place. I fully agree with her, by the way.
Your impression of me was so bad, and what even was that poem?
I can't believe I was tricked into making a podcast with you.
I'm sorry, how did I end up in this video?
Is Maine even a real place?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we having a little imposter syndrome spiral? Must be tough to be able to waste time sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Never mind, people like me can get literally bashed and then go on to create important documentaries that might help save people's lives. But yes, let's all take a moment to feel sad and sorry for Mandy. When you're dead, Hoots and I aren't even gonna bother dragging that pathetic, decaying corpse of yours because nobody would listen. You're just that insignificant. And Mandy, Amanda, I need you to listen very closely to what I'm about to say, okay? Really listen to me. Your art doesn't matter. Okay, well, number 1, I will definitely drag your corpse when you're dead. We literally all signed that pact in blood before we started to respect the dead, and you know this.
Thanks, bestie.
2, I think you're the right person to make this video.
But like, what is...
You've turned on mid-roll ads on your videos, right?
Yeah, I did.
And you're making more on Patreon than you ever have, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, because people care about what you have to say. Nobody made them care but you. You did that. Not Salamander, Thinking Goop. You'll figure out how to end this video. I know it. You can and will do this. And maybe that will be while emulating your YouTube bestie or a certain philosophy mummy.
Thanks, Caelan.
You're welcome. I am great. You're right. I just got a notification that my fries are here though, so I'm gonna go eat them. But good luck, girly. Cannot wait to see how it all ends.
Me too. Okay, here we go. This one I'm sure you were expecting. I can't, nor would I ever try to deny that Abigail Thorne has been a huge influence on myself and this channel. Not just her, of course. The very clever among you have likely noticed other influences as well, such as Natalie Wynn, T1J, and Lindsay Ellis, as well, of course, some of the friends of this channel, such as Zoe B and Caelan Conrad. But Abigail, she occupies a special place in the empty void where my heart used to be. Now, it's possible that Miss Thorne might be in our audience today, and if so, could you just turn around? You can still listen. Just turn it around. Do not perceive me. Funny, relevant story. I actually used to be a supporter of Abigail over on her Patreon. I don't do that anymore because I prefer my measly couple of bucks to go to smaller channels where, it kind of makes a bigger impact. Or at least I used to like to do that. My rent went up in January and unfortunately I'm not able to currently financially support anybody. Sorry. Anyway, I was supporting Abigail when her video about transitioning and coming out to the public was first released. I remember there being so much vagueness leading up to the release, the hype. Oh my God, the hype. I remember when the thumbnail was dropped on Twitter and everyone was speculating about what the subject of the next video was going to be. Here's this person who looks like Abigail, or at least the way that Abigail used to look, but it's clearly not her. What's going on here? My little theory, which I felt very clever and big-brained about, was that the video would be about imposter syndrome. And if you really think about it, was I wrong? Okay, fine, it wasn't actually about the imposter phenomenon, sure, but it was about Abigail coming to terms with who she is and how she couldn't be what she was told she had to be. She tried so many times to just fit in and do the things that she was promised would eventually make her feel fulfilled and satisfied and like a real man trademark. But none of it worked. It wasn't until she was finally honest about who she was, both to herself and everyone else, that she could finally feel at ease. Well, as much ease one can feel being a public trans figure living on an island filled with people who are determined to end your existence. Being trans, being queer, being black, being Asian, being disabled, being neurodivergent. There are so many ways that we just do not fit in by way of being us, just for existing. If we want to fit in, we have to contort ourselves, twist ourselves into shapes that feel uncomfortable and unnatural. We play some roles that sit uncomfortably on our skin like an ill-fitting suit, and then we're told that if we're uncomfortable, we're the problem. Worse, this voice, it gets inside of us. It gets inside of our heads. We struggle to get free of it, even when we're alone. Previous video from Abigail's from before she transitioned, called Why Do I Hate Myself?, talked about this inner critic. Abigail's inner critic at the time was called Mr. Not Good Enough, though I imagine since transitioning, it's probably more appropriate to refer to it as Mrs. Not Good Enough. If Abigail Thorne is in our audience today, would like to confirm that, please write that down in your comment section right after you like and subscribe. I have a Mrs. Not Good Enough, as you can see. She likes to criticize the way I edit videos, how I structure jokes.
No one's gonna laugh at any of those
but
jokes.
Mostly likes to remind me of all the ways I don't belong. Because you don't. I've been dealing with her for a long time, but as long as I can remember. And here I am going to very carefully sidestep an entire conversation about my own challenging childhood as well as my own mental illness struggles. Certainly those are very much related and definitely feed into my own sense of imposter syndrome, but to get into that would be a huge tangent. I am going to be making a video about being neurodivergent and polyamorous in the future, so if you don't want to miss that, make sure you have the bell turned on down below. That way you'll be notified when that video comes out. Nice call to action. Super subtle, not forced at all. I could be at a party with my best friends in the world having an amazing time, and out of nowhere, she will lean in and whisper into my ear, "You could walk outside right now and die of exposure, and no one would even notice or care." Which is pretty f***ing rude. Could you just not? I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah, but a truth I am supposed to accept, not like inner truth or beauty. This is the truth of oppressors, which ironically actually isn't even the truth at all. It's full of denial and censorship. Oh my God, stop talking like that. You sound ridiculous. She doesn't talk like this in real life. So what? If it's what I feel and it translates to the audience, who cares? You do. You care all the time, too much. I'm here because deep down, some part of you is worried that you actually are a fraud, the one exception to the rule. And guess what? You're right. You are. This whole video ripping other YouTubers off, some more Mandy, FD Mandyfier, and this, what we're doing right now. You know that copying your philosophy mommy isn't gonna get her to notice or care about you, right? That's not. Don't lie to me. I've been with you since the beginning. I know you better than you know yourself. Lie to everyone else. Lie to your audience. Lie to yourself even, but don't you dare for a f***ing second lie to me. Okay, fine, you're right. Okay, I do hope that Abigail sees this, or Khadija, or T1J, or Jessie Gender, or one of the hundreds of very talented YouTubers that I look up to, okay? Because I just want to be seen and validated and heard, and sometimes I think if I can just find the right person, I can finally get you to shut the hell up once and for all. Is that so bad? I want to feel like I belong, like I matter, like somebody out there would give a flying fuck about what I have said or done or contributed to. I want to feel like my home is my home, a place made for me and my friends in mind. I want queer people to be as flamboyant as they want, for trans people to use whatever fucking bathroom they desire, and for disabled individuals to be able to have access to captions and mobility devices without having to start a GoFundMe. Oh, and let's not forget that I am now dependent on this as a mean of survival because my income changed last year and my rent went up here in January, so now I have to keep ads turned on and constantly plug my Patreon. Seriously, please support me over on patreon.com/mainlymandy. I'm broke and need to save up so that I can move. Only I can't save up to move because this place currently costs me too much money to save money. That means I cannot afford to stay here either, but I also need to move. The cycle gets worse and worse as the loops get tighter around my neck. I can't ever seem to save enough money and the bills just keep getting higher and higher so that I have to make decisions about how low to keep my heat because I can't afford to keep it up too high because it's just too expensive, but also I have to keep it up just above freezing so that the pipes in my apartment don't burst so my apartment doesn't flood again. Wow. That was quite the monologue. What a masterful ripoff of a big emotional beat in a leftist cook essay. Isn't that good? Wasn't that good, everybody? Face it. You have to use other YouTubers as a crutch. Otherwise, you just be a failure, a disappointment, a big old... Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I speaking too fast for you now? This bitch. No, What did you just say? That you would be a failure if you didn't have other people to rely on. Huh. You're right. You're agreeing with me, which I like. But you're doing it with a little hope in your eyes, which I don't like so much. You're right. I can't survive without my Patreon supporters and my friends and the people I'm inspired by. Yeah, because you're pathetic. Yeah, or maybe because I shouldn't want to do it alone. I don't understand. You know, you don't. You can't. 'Cause you're the imposter here. I know how I'm going to end the video now. And I'm going to do it my way. I can't get by on my own, and I don't want to, not really. I want to embody the empathy of Jessie Gender, the relentlessness of Caelan Conrad, the wit of Maggie Mayfish, the storytelling of Foreign Man in a Foreign Land, the mindfulness of Khadija, the charm of Victory the Creator, the passion of Aronach, the whatever the hell you call it of Maya Ben David, the radical compassion of Neil Sarah of the leftist cooks, the energy of CJ the X, and yes, the ability to speak to and not down to my audience, and the vulnerability of Abigail Thorne. And by the way, that's just the tip of the YouTubers who personally inspire me iceberg. If I had done homage to every single creator that I admire or whose work I really enjoy consuming, this video would be like 10 hours long. There's also Artisanal Cheese, Color Mine, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Harker the Storyteller, Intellectual Media, Cal Calgren, Hello Future Me, T Noir, T1J, Professor Flowers, Mia Cole, Mia Mulder, all the YouTube Mias. I need all of these creators to teach me, to inspire me, and to challenge me. I need my supporters on Patreon who do help me to pay my bills and to help me create this content. I am so grateful to each and every one of them who has ever given me even just a couple of bucks, including those who are no longer able to support me financially. I get it, babe. You got bills too. We all need each other. We don't need capitalism. We belong here, it doesn't. In one of my articles I read about doppelgangers, the author said,
Doppelganger stories strike at the heart of who we are, symbolizing the fear of losing control of our own lives and a distrust of authenticity in the age of fake news.
More and more people are catching on wise that the fear of not belonging isn't some unfounded phobia. It is a reasonable reaction to an observable phenomenon. Remember, the original term was imposter phenomenon, not imposter syndrome. Phenomenon! I can't say it without thinking that. I'm sorry. Being authentically ourselves can be terrifying because it can cost us a lot. Our homes, our livelihoods, our communities. Imposter syndrome isn't a disease. It is a logical state in a world that makes it clear that sometimes the cost of being who you are is expulsion, ridicule, and even death. A fat woman being charged twice as much for her seat on an airline that is actively making those seats smaller. A wheelchair user that is trying to find accessible housing that is also affordable. An Asian American who is being called slurs and told to go back to where they came from when they were fucking born here. Are all these people supposed to just look in a mirror and recite some empty mantras about how they actually belong? How are they supposed to believe that when everything is telling them otherwise? Hell, people living in impoverished states are told that they couldn't possibly be really poor if they own a refrigerator.
Robert, I'm just going to give our viewers a quick run-through of what items poor families in America have. 99% of them have a refrigerator.
Why is your idea of poverty so cartoonish? Like, do you also believe that unhoused people steal pies from windowsills? Hell, I was once fucking unhoused. I was homeless. I never got a pie from a windowsill or otherwise. Where's my damn pie? If we're going to get rid of this monster implanted deep within us and screaming from within, then we have to break down these structures that put it there in the first place. We can't just turn this into some superpower or yet another meme just derived of any and all actual meaning. We have to be honest and daring in the face of those who want us to lie and be quiet. We need each other, and we need to start saying that as loudly and often as possible.
The imposter phenomenon, as a concept, effectively functions as an emotional filing cabinet, organizing a variety of fraught feelings that we can experience as we try and reconcile three aspects of our personhood: how we experience ourselves, how we present ourselves to the world, and how the world reflects that self back to us. The phenomenon names an unspoken, ongoing crisis arising from the gaps between these various versions of the self, and designates not a syndrome, but an inescapable part of being alive.
And let's be real, there's like so much more I could have talked about in this video. Like, I didn't talk at all about the experiences of immigrants or refugees. I spoke mostly from a Western American standpoint. I also didn't talk much about the experiences of neurodivergent people. Autistic folk in particular can struggle a lot with perceived fraudulence. Plus, there's plenty more I could have talked about in terms of disability and the systemic barriers that affect those who have them. Those conversations are also very necessary, and I hope that we're having them. We need them. I need them. I needed the people who came before me, who researched this topic and then made that research available to me, which I in turn will make sure is available to all of you in my research document, which will be down in my description box down below. I needed the people who agreed to be in this video, many of whom are inspirations to me personally, and I'm honestly really delighted that they agreed to be in this. I need you, person who's watching this video right now. I can't do it alone, and I don't want to. I couldn't make this video alone. And I'm really glad I didn't have to. And that's the ending. So, what do you think?
It's definitely cringe. But it's Mandy cringe.
And then I thought we could do a big ending musical number.
No.
I love you so much. I really do. Like, I am so grateful that you are in my life. You are one of the kindest, most generous, funniest people I know. And I feel very secure in the knowledge that you are my friend. Like, there is a kind of safety to it.
But if anyone should not feel imposter syndrome, especially in the fucking quagmire, swamp, horrendous situation that making videos on YouTube is, it's you. And you have a rare moral clarity and consistency that is admirable and too few people, not just on YouTube, but around the world have.
The content she's making is incredibly important, and I know it changes people's lives because I'm someone whose life was changed by the videos that she makes. Her de-escalation video in particular comes to mind. It gave me the language and framing that I needed to take what was an otherwise really painful memory in my life and turn it into a beautiful chapter that now offers me a lot of closure. So I would personally like to thank her for what she is bringing to the table.
I'm so grateful to you for making this video. Like, I'm still waiting on the day where I actually believe that I belong here and deserve this. Even just being a part of this project, I can't believe I'm this lucky. I can't believe that I get to call you and the others my friends. You are incredibly special and unique, and you are all the big YouTubers' faves for a reason.
I just want you to know that I feel awful even doing this fake acting thing, saying such mean things about people, yourself especially. So, yeah, it's obviously, you know I don't mean these things, and I would never ever say such a thing to you, but I just want you to know that despite all that, in truth, you are dearly loved and you are worthy of love. And yeah, you seem like a genuinely wonderful human being from our interactions.
Mandy, I think you're a beautiful person. Please, I kind of read the script, and please don't self-jeopardize yourself. You're a beautiful person doing beautiful things, you know. And I'm sorry for getting this video in a little late, but I thank you for letting me be on your project because you are an amazing person, okay? And you're doing amazing things with your platform. Keep doing what you're doing because you are amazing, okay? Mainly Mandy, more like most awesome Mandy, most awesome Mandy. Okay, word. I love you.
Andy, I wanted to start off this video before I record what you asked me to record to just tell you that you are wonderful and you are amazing and you are absolutely loved, and I appreciate you being a part of this community, and I also appreciate you just being an amazing human being.
It's meant a lot to me that you reach out, even in a social setting. You know, there are times where I wonder what I'm doing with this channel and whether or not folks care or watch about it. And I see your comments, and I see even the, you know, Instagram messages that you send, and I appreciate it. You're a stand-up person. You should know that.
I just want you to know that, you know, you are loved and you have so many wonderful friends who are also supportive of you. And I am just so overjoyed and honored to be a part of this community that you have grown, because you're just a wonderful person, and you always bring such joy and whimsy, and you're like a unicorn. Like, if a unicorn was distilled down into a person, it would be you.
Who, Mandy? Yeah, I know Mandy. She's like one of the sweetest and most genuine people, like a biblically accurate bestie. If there were like 100 unbaptized babies on the trolley tracks on one side and a little bit of Mandy's like shoe on the other side, I kill the babies every time. She's an artist, a comedian, a third thing that's funny, and that's the end of the list. The only thing the Mandy haters are better at than Mandy is being losers who suck. If you don't like Mandy, that's you. Sorry, you missed out. But that's what happens when you suck a lot at being cool. You know what? This interview's over. Peace out, nerd. Is this food for everyone? Excuse me, do you work here? Can I get a to-go container? Two to-go containers? 2 to-go containers?